In this video, we're going to look at how to edit the site layout of a Google site. That's something that's done under Site Actions, but before we go there, we're going to look at an alternate way to organize the menu over on the left. And that's because it will eventually relate to site layouts, so I think this is a logical place to do it. And I have a series of pages, but they're not terribly well organized. And when I look at it, I realize that there are a couple of categories here. This resource category makes sense to me, that things would be organized underneath that, and perhaps professional development as well. So under resources, I have this page of worksheets. Let me open that up. And I really see that as a resource. So basically, I want to associate that with this resource. So to do that, under Page Actions, I'm simply going to pick Move Page. And it's going to ask me where I want to put it. And I'll click on Resources and move it there. And you can see that after a few seconds, it's moved up under Resources and indented slightly. So I'm creating the equivalent of a file structure. It's really not. This isn't a folder. This is a page, Resources. But I can put things as subcategories within that. So let's try that again. I have worksheets. Perhaps other resources I have are my lesson plans. So I'll go to the lesson plan page. I'll move it. And I'll put that under resources again. You'll see that I can see what's already under there by clicking the plus sign, so I'll do that. And after a minute or two, it'll be moved under there. Now, when something is nested underneath a page, you'll get this triangle to indicate that there's something in there or under there, and then clicking on it will open it up. And we could do this at multiple levels. If I had categories of resources, I could put pages in here to represent the categories and then put particular documents under each of those categories. And again, it would give me more triangles to indicate things were in there. Another example of that is this What's Up. Now, What's Up was an announcements page, but the way that Google organizes announcements is to create a new page for each post. And so this organization is done automatically for you, but it works in the same way as if you were doing it manually. So I'm going to pause the video a little bit and do some other moving, follow that same process and clean this up a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, there are a lot fewer files visible. I moved some of my pages underneath professional development. I moved some under resources. I created a page called Site Templates. I moved the 4 site template examples under there, and I actually renamed them to represent the type of templates that they were: web page, announcements, file cabinet, and list. And there's a couple of pages still kind of loose at this top level. Notice also that they alphabetize, except the first one doesn't. And the reason is, if you remember from a previous video, I had designated this as the landing or home page, and therefore it's always going to come up on top. As a matter of fact, if I close the site and I re-enter, you notice not only is it up on top, but that's the page that loads in the window. So if this is actually going to be my landing page or my home page, maybe I want to, I'm sorry, just use the edit here. Maybe I can rename it a little bit. Okay, so the pages will alphabetize with the exception of the landing page, which will be at top. Okay, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to get into the Edit Site Layout section under Site Actions and look at what we can do to edit the layout of this particular site. Now, at the top, you have a series of buttons. These are toggles. So right now I've got a header and it's toggled on. If I click it and I wait for a second, that header is going to disappear. And if I were to close this window, you see that I've lost my search tool and that site title up at the top. By clicking header again, that information will reappear on all my pages. Okay, so the title of my site or the name of my site and the Google search. Okay. We also see that we have a sidebar on now. And if I mouse over that, I get this extra link here. So we'll come back to this one in just a minute. Let's do some of the simpler ones first. I can turn on a custom footer. And a custom footer is really just going to give me a little space to add some content above the footer that Google supplies. So maybe I'll just put a disclaimer in there. Okay, so I've finished some typing. You'll note that you still have your options for indenting, making a list, basic font, formatting options, links. I can also insert an image, horizontal line, or a table in here. Okay, so I can do a lot of what I can do on a normal page. And when I say OK, that's simply going to appear here above the default footer that Google provides. This section allows you to set the site width. Generally, you're going to leave that to the default theme, and one reason is if you do want to make this site a little more accessible to alternate viewing platforms such as tablets or phones or something, these are generally set to a width and they're going to scale to those devices. So it's a good idea to leave this at the default. If someone really needed a particular width site, they could do it here, but I haven't really found the need to use it. I think it's better to use a default theme. Okay, now we do have a sidebar menu here. This is not required. I could simply toggle it off. Now at this point you'll see that the content area has expanded to use up the additional space, and if I close it, on my site it's done the same thing, so I'm not wasting that space. And I can also pick a horizontal navigation. So instead of the vertical, when I click that on, I get a toolbar across the top. And I'm going to have to click on it, and then I can build my horizontal navigation. Okay, so I'm going to have to add a page. And the page I'm going to add to begin with is, say, About Us, main page. I'm going to add another page, Site Templates, add another page, Professional Development, and I'll continue on. And those are all those top level pages. Now I want to reorder these. It's certainly like Welcome to be first, so if I click on that, I can just use this up arrow to put it there. I think this was second. And my site templates, okay, and bring that one down a little bit. Up or down arrow, makes no difference. You can automatically include a site map by checking this box, and a link to recent site activity by checking this one. Now you also have the option to make these appear as hyperlinks across, or to make them appear as tabs or boxes. So let's try them as links first. You see they're just words across there. In order to test them out, I'll have to close this. And if I click on Welcome, the Welcome page loads. The About page loads. Now when I get to Professional Development and Resources and Site Templates, they all have things nested under them. You'll notice that I get the main page, but I don't get the subpages. Well, in a sense I do. Down here it says subpages. We know these are nested under and these will be links, but I don't get a drop down out of the menu to get to them. And that's because if I want to use that horizontal menu, I have to build all this myself. These subpages are only here because under page settings, show links to subpages is checked. So by unchecking that on the pages, this will disappear. So if I want to handle that through the menu itself, I have to go to Edit Site Layout, click on this horizontal menu, and actually add the other pages. So I'm going to have to do this. It's a very manual process. So under Site Templates, I'm going to pick Announcements. I'm going to pick Okay, let me pause the video and upload some of these so you can see how they work. Okay, for now I just added the 4 site templates. So I'm going to move those up into play. Well, they're directly under site templates, so that's good. But if I were to view this menu now, you'd see they all try to squeeze in and they run to a second line, and that's not really what I wanted. So we'll come back and edit it one more time. And what we need to do is, although they're in the right place under site templates, they need to be indented to show again that they are kind of a subcategory of site templates. And let me save that. Close it. You'll notice the extra pages have disappeared, but now when I lay my mouse over site templates, my 4 choices come up. So clicking on Site Templates brings me to this page, and now I can get to the different templates. Also, since I eliminated the sub-pages here, this is really my only method of getting to these pages. Without using this menu at the top, I wouldn't even know they existed, frankly. Now, you can use some combination of those strategies. I mean, you certainly could have the subpages on to make it convenient for your users. You could have maybe come to announcements and have subpages here. So you see we have several posts here that I can get to. But I didn't add those posts individually under announcements. You know, I don't want to go through that process of every time I make a post having to add it to the menu. So if you simply go to the announcements, you'll be able to access them from there because they'll be linked from there. So you've got to give some thought to your organizational strategy in order to make this work. Okay, let's go back and look at one more thing. If I do decide to keep a sidebar, and the nice thing now is that the sidebar could potentially have one type of link and the horizontal bar could have others, or I could simply decide to eliminate one of them. So I'm going to shut off the horizontal bar for a moment. And if I mouse over this and click on navigation when it comes up, you'll see that I get a couple of options. Do I want to display this title navigation? Yes. And I could change it to something else if I wanted and display that as well, or I could hide it. Automatically organize my navigation. Okay, so that's why it's going alphabetical. It's being organized in an alphabetical way, is because this checkbox is checked. Also, it's now set to 2 levels deep, so I can see something, and if there's stuff in it, I can go see that. But if there were things inside that second level, I wouldn't see them because this is set to 2. Now I can adjust that to 3, 1, or all. So it depends on what I want to do with my navigation. This also has the option to include both a sitemap and a link. We'll see what happens there. You'll see down at the bottom is not only a sitemap, which is great. It shows me the structure of my site and allows people to see what's available. There's also recent site activity. And remember, you can decide who sees this recent site activity, whether that be collaborators or anyone who has access to view your site. That brings us to one more option we have under Site Layout, and that is to take this automatic organization and to take control of it. So in order to do that, you're going to mouse over this navigation until you can click on the black area, and you're going to uncheck this box for Organize My Navigation. Notice it all goes blank again, and so this is very much like it was in the horizontal menu we saw previously. You simply need to keep adding the pages. Then you can order them as you see fit. Let me get those site templates again. So this is a little bit of an arduous process. You've got to do them individually. If you do them as you're creating pages, it really is not that bad. And it does give you a lot more control over the navigation and how you set up your site. So I'll take these and I'll indent them as I did before. And the only difference now is instead of getting a drop down when I mouse over in a horizontal menu, close this up, what you're going to get is this, there we go. I reload the page. It still seems to be kind of in an edit mode. There we go. Instead, we're going to get this triangle that we can open up. And of course, we could double indent, so we could indent 2 or 3 things under list, and they would be over even further. List would get a triangle. So that's basically how you can work with those menus to get more control over them. And that really covers all of our options in editing the site layout on a Google site.